Tonight on Evening Debrief, an investigative report on the school shootings in Uvalde, Texas. It condemns law enforcement's response to the mass shooting. We explain the mistakes made and show you new body camera video released. Let's talk more about what we just learned. Joining me now live is Dr. Alex Del Carmen. He's an associate dean and professor at Tarleton State University and an expert in police practices. Throughout his career, he has trained thousands of police officers and civilians on topics related to implicit and explicit bias and racial profiling. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. That story that we just heard is really sobering. A child calling 911, and then they found out about that, and these officers still didn't move. What is your reaction to this report and the bewildering inaction of officers there?
Good evening, Natalie, and thanks again for having me. I feel that in many ways, this report actually highlights and confirms what we have known for some time now, which is essentially that this is an epic failure from the moment that law enforcement was called to the scene all the way until the victims were pulled out in body bags from that particular school. It is unconscionable, and it's going to go down on history as what not to do in an active shooting scenario. And I would even say to you, to sort of characterize how horrible this incident was, and moreover, how the response by law enforcement was simply inadequate, that everything that we teach police officers to do in an active shooting scenario was not done in this particular case.
And you heard from the relatives of those who were shot and those who died, calling them cowards, saying someone's got to be held responsible. What should happen here as this investigation goes forward? And what of the 400 law enforcement officials who were there?
Well, you know, we have criminal statutes in the state of Texas that simply, if the prosecutor were to select them and enforce them, in this case, they could actually follow up and prosecute some of those individuals that were, quote unquote, in charge of the incident on that particular day. However, my prediction is that is unlikely. And what will likely happen is they're going to file many lawsuits against the Uvalde Independent School District, against the City of Uvalde Police Department, against Chief Arredondo, and against some of the officers that were there. To think that almost 400 police officers from various jurisdictions at various levels, federal, state, and local, were simply there right outside this classroom, and nothing was done in order to save lives is simply unimaginable in today's world of policing.
Yeah. The report says that they failed to follow their active shooter training in an active shooter situation. What should they have done with several responding agencies on the scene?
You know, I'm glad you asked that question, because there's been an emphasis since the report came out yesterday on the type of shield that was being used and whether or not it could have withstood a AR-15 round. And that's all in many ways important, but it's irrelevant to the training that we teach police officers in an active shooting scenario. That is, we teach officers to race towards the scene and neutralize the threat. End of story. Whether the officers are outgunned, outmanned, whether the officers know that their lives will likely end or they will be seriously injured as a result of that, they take an oath. And that oath is a very serious oath when they are given their back. And that is that they are going to race towards danger and they are going to save lives. And in this particular case, not one of those individuals that was in that hallway reminded themselves of what that promise was when they raised their right hand and swore to protect and serve.
Yes, and the fact that they were waiting to find a key to the door to get in there. There were 400 officers there. Were there too many there? Could that be part of the problem, and nobody was stepping up and knew who was to take charge?
In part, yes, but at the same time, remember that the officers that really matter here are the ones in the hallway. And what you had is you had a group of officers on the north end of the hallway and some officers on the southern part of the hallway. And so the danger here is that if they the suspect from that point of view, they may actually hurt each other. So that goes to show you the lack of command and control at the scene. The fact that there was clear confusion. When you have an officer that on video shows that he's getting hand sanitizer at the same time that rounds are emanating from room 111 and little kids are dying, it's just simply unconscionable. And so to me, this is the number one failure here is lack of leadership. If somebody would have taken charge of this event and would have said, you know what, this is what we're going to do, this is the plan, we are to assume that there are individuals that are alive in that classroom and others that are simply, every second counts, remember the training, let's engage. It would have been a different story.
Yes, that is the tragedy here. We really appreciate your insights. It helps us try and understand what went so terribly wrong. Dr. Alex Del Carmen, thank you for coming on, sir.